Even if I ever have a 5-minute conversation with someone about music, they tend to end up knowing that I'm a massive Ed Sheeran fan because I can't seem to help myself from bringing him up. You know, he is my favorite artist in the current pop music industry, and I have heard almost everything he has ever released. So saying that a day like today, when his new album Divide comes out, is something I have been waiting for ages. And so today I'm just going to give my opinion on what I thought of his new album, which I just finished listening to twice. Honestly, I don't think Ed Sheeran could have given a better start to his album than Eraser. It's just so wonderful in every way. It's something that really makes you want to listen to the rest of the album. So the main theme of Eraser is his life as a successful celebrity pop artist and about how it's not always as perfect as it might seem. And he puts it across so beautifully. It's just lyrically amazing to listen to. You know, you keep listening to it and picking up more and more details of what he says. And also he's rapping in this one, so it's kind of along the same lines as You Need Me, I Don't Need You, or Take It Back, and he still does an incredible job at it. So yeah, a great start. The guitar riff is incredibly catchy too, so you know, it's just something you can listen to on repeat over and over again, and it kind of reminds you of many of the reasons why people love Ed Sheeran. Also, I have to say I was skeptical about this song in particular, or at least the studio version of this song, because Ed Sheeran released a live version of it a few days ago, and that really blew my mind because he added some extra verses and stuff, and the lyrics were even more amazing with all of that. So I wasn't sure if the studio version would live up to it, but you know, with the guitar riff and some additional effects and everything, it does actually sound just as good. So he's done a great job on both points, which he often does with his music. So Castle on the Hill is one of the two songs everyone has been in love with since January when Ed Sheeran released the first two singles. I would say the theme is a little cliche, like quite a few artists have done it before. The one that comes to mind is, for example, Lucas Graham did 7 Years last year, and it was quite similar, you know, the whole theme of growing up and looking back and all of that. Even so, he handles it really well, and it's just amazing listening to him. His voice is a really good asset for him, and he uses that to the fullest in this song. I would say it's kind of stereotypically pop as well, you know, but it's still great, and it's something very easy to listen to. I have to say, Ed Sheeran's voice really stands out in this one for some reason. You know, it's always great, but here it's like there's so much emphasis on it, and you can really hear how versatile it is and what a great range it has, and yeah, so a lot of the focus is on that. Besides that, the lyrics are very cool. This whole thing about not wanting to get into a relationship unless you're very sure about it and you can trust the other person. I mean, Ed Sheeran's always been great at expressing himself and putting across his message in songs, and this song is a prime example of that. Honestly, I don't know what's left to say for this song because it has taken the world by storm for over a month now, and everyone loves it. Everyone's made covers of it. It's been #1 on the British charts for like 8 weeks now. I'll just say that I can see why. You know, the lyrics are fun, they're very catchy, it's enjoyable to sing along to, it's danceable, it's feel good. The video's not quite what I was expecting. It kind of disappointed me a little bit, but regardless, the song in itself is awesome. The only critique I could possibly have is that the intro, which everyone knows by now, is very similar to a lot of other recent songs. So like every time I heard it in the beginning, I used to try and sing Cheap Thrills along with it because it reminded me so much of that. So actually mainly Sia songs, Cheap Thrills and Greatest, and those sound super similar to Shape of You's beginning. But regardless, it's a really cool song, and yeah, deserves the success it has, I think. So I'm going to put Perfect and How Would You Feel together because to me they're both quite similar songs, both very romantic songs about being in love. I have to say Perfect was it's a beautiful song. It's the kind of song people would dance to at their weddings and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's not as original as I would expect Ed Sheeran's music to be. It's very cliched, you know, the kind of song we have in abundance already in pop music, already. All of Me, Thinking Out Loud even, that kind of song. So yeah, I mean, it's always nice to listen to, but it's nothing that really stands out for me on this album. And yeah, I think the rest of it's much better. How Would You Feel as well? Really great intro. I have to say the intro kind of makes you want to listen to the rest of the song. But lyrically, nice, but nothing very fresh. And although I will say Ed Sheeran's voice is somehow more striking in How Would You Feel than Perfect. But yeah, both still soothing and enjoyable. This is really one of those songs that kind of catches your attention from the first second with the line, she plays a fiddle in an Irish band but she fell in love with an English man. You just want to listen to the rest of it. And I think this is when Ed Sheeran's lyrics are at his best, when he tries and tells you a story with them. And it's something quite rare actually in pop music, which is one of the reasons I love Ed Sheeran so much. Sometimes I feel like now lyrics are just used as a filler and you're supposed to focus on the beat or the dancing or the lovely tune, which is rarely very original nowadays. But in Ed Sheeran's case, I always feel like there's some kind of focus on the lyrics and you can really you need to pay attention and hear what he's talking about. So this song does that pretty well. It's very catchy, it's different, it's got the whole Irish folksy thing going on, which is also there in another song on this album. And yeah, very feel good, super cheerful, and I just really enjoyed this one. I think it might be one of my favorite tracks on the album, so yeah, very cool. Happier for me was a really lovely song on this album, which is about Ed Sheeran seeing his ex out with someone new and thinking that, you know, they look happier than he and his ex were together. So he phrases his feelings really well, and it's one of those songs that really makes you feel like he has actually been through this, which is something else Ed Sheeran is really good at. You know, he talks about many different kinds of situations and he describes details so intensely you're almost convinced that he has been through all of them himself. Which he might have been, you never know. He uses lines like, I saw both your smiles were twice as wide as ours, referring to when he and his ex were together. And yeah, it's just that kind of powerful stuff. You just want to keep listening to the story and find out what happens, and he's done a great job. So New Man is a song basically about Ed Sheeran's ex dating someone new, and in this song he beautifully just roasts the new man, and it's amazing to hear. He insults him with every line, and you know, again, it's one of those cases where you just really enjoy the lyrics for a change in pop music and you're just like laughing along with everything Ed Sheeran's saying about the new man. And he also talks about how his ex has changed since dating someone new, so that kind of gives the song a more serious element as well. So he's done that really skillfully, and yeah, it's a bit pop, especially the chorus, but it's still very enjoyable to listen to. Hearts Don't Break Round Here is another love song on Ed Sheeran's album about how happy he is with someone, and I don't know, it's nice, but it's also kind of forgettable. It's the kind of song you could hear in the background in a shop and just kind of, you know, enjoy it while it lasts and then completely forget it and never want to look it up or anything of the sort. So yeah, not one of the best tracks on the album, but I wouldn't say it's horrible. I mean, it's still, it's got a nice tune, not original, but quite a nice tune, and yeah, it's still got Ed Sheeran's voice, which is always a plus point. What Do I Know, which is about Ed Sheeran just wanting to spread love in the world and about wanting to, you know, solve all the problems that we all have, is nice. It's a very, again, feel-good kind of song. You enjoy listening to it. It's got a very catchy kind of background music, but that being said, it's kind of adverty. Like, I can imagine it being used in an advert for some nice product and, you know, that kind of thing. Again, not super original. The lyrics are good, though better than the ones for Perfect or some of the other tracks on this album. But yeah, not one of the best songs, but still. So this is one of the really powerful songs of this new album. Apparently Ed Sheeran wrote it for his grandmother who passed away while he was making Divide, and it's written from his mother's point of view. It's lyrically really beautiful, and he puts a lot of attention into the details in the lyrics about small things that his family did after his grandmother passed away. So it's really lovely to listen to, and it's very emotional. He sings it with a lot of passion as well. And it kind of reminds me of A Fire Love from X, so that was about his grandfather passing away. So similar theme. He's done a great job at using his real life experience to write something meaningful and share it with everyone. Again, I'm going to put these two together because they're very similar in the kind of song they are. So I think they're both super feel-good songs, you know, automatic mood lifters whenever you listen to them. They're both about just kind of enjoying life. One's about being in Barcelona, one's just about not worrying about the little things and being able to be happy. So yeah, they're just both, I would say, not very original in terms of tune or even lyrically sometimes, but regardless, they're both songs that people would love to listen to on many different occasions, and they really just make you feel happy. I mean, I guess in a way, if I ever club two songs together, it's a negative point in itself because it means neither one of them were distinctive enough for me to give them their own space. But regardless, I mean, they're enjoyable. Now, this song is definitely another one of my favorites from this album. So in this one, Ed Sheeran talks about his grandparents' love story, and it's from the point of view of his grandfather and how he finally got to marry Ed Sheeran's grandmother, who he was in love with. And it's got a very Irish folksy kind of tune, which is really original and really different from the rest of this album, and that's why it's so enjoyable. It's not the kind of stuff you hear on the charts nowadays, and it really stands out, does a great job. The lyrics are memorable, again, lots of detail, one of the things that Sheeran is best at. Save Myself is the last song on the album, and to be honest, I don't know how I feel about it. Maybe it was the fact that I'd listened to the 15 other tracks before, but by the time this song came on, I was just kind of zoned out, and I couldn't bring myself to pay as much attention to it as I did to some of the previous songs. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad, but probably not the best song to end the album with because it's kind of low-key, not very memorable, at least in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, Ed Sheeran's got a great voice in it, but that's not super new. And you know, by this point now, if you're really listening to the whole album, you're kind of used to it. So I would think that maybe if he had ended it with one of the more upbeat songs, that could have worked better for him, just in terms of finishing on a stronger note. But regardless, you know, by this time I think if you've really listened to the whole album, you're already convinced that he's incredible and he's done a great job. So it's fine, you know, a weak ending doesn't matter too much. Overall, I would say that this was different for me. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Just, you know, people love saying now, especially if they don't like Ed Sheeran, they love having this stereotype of what Ed Sheeran music is. So it's always acoustic guitar and, you know, soft lyrics about being happy, like romantic lyrics, basically. And, well, this album kind of proves the opposite. Sure, he's got one or two songs like How Would You Feel or Perfect, which are like that, your typical Ed Sheeran, or even Castle on the Hill. But like his previous albums, it's got lots of variety. He covers so many different themes, you know, from his grandmother's death to his grandparents' love story to being sad about breaking up with someone. It's got everything. So I would say it's very versatile of him to cover so many different themes in one album. This is something he also did with X. And besides that, I would say it is different though. I mean, it's not, it's some of the tracks are the kind I would have never expected Ed Sheeran to produce. Barcelona, for example. I don't know, I just didn't associate that kind of music with him. That being said, it's just different, but it's not bad. It's just, maybe it's even a good kind of different. But what I love the most is, in spite of this, he manages to keep the best things about himself in every song. So you've always got his passionate vocals, you've got like pretty great lyrics in on most occasions, and you know, memorable details always present in them, which is great to listen to. Most of the time the tunes are catchy. A massive advantage Ed Sheeran always has is his voice, because sometimes, you know, if a wrong voice is singing a song, even if everything else about that song is great, you can end up not liking it just because the vocals are very poor. This never happens with Ed Sheeran. Not only does he have lots of raw talent, which means he never uses auto-tune or anything, it's also that he sings with so much passion and emotion. Whenever you listen to a song by him, you are compelled to believe what he's singing about. When it's a love song, like Thinking Out Loud, you can feel like, you know, he's in love and he's happy. And then when it's a song like Supermarket Flowers, chorus, for example, you can really feel the pain of the song. He's very good at doing that, just conveying the one soul emotion that he wants to through that one song. So this is why his versatility is so impressive, and it really comes across in this album. And more importantly, even though I haven't seen him perform most of these live yet, he probably will in the tour, which is coming up. You can imagine that he's going to do an amazing job while performing them live, because if you can hear this much passion in his vocals and in the lyrics when you're just listening to studio versions, he's going to amp that up by so much when he's singing them live, and it's going to be amazing. So yeah, it's been a year, but Ed Sheeran hasn't lost his touch and he's still great. And for fans like me, that's a relief.